To our second virtual experience with Holden Evening Prayer. We wish that we could be all together in person, but we're happy to gather with each other online. I'm going to pass this over to Pastor Nick, who's going to describe how we're going to do worship this evening. But we hope that it will be a blessing to you and a blessing to all those that you connect with virtually throughout the week. So, Pastor Nick.
Welcome, everybody. So as we're getting started tonight, we're going to have you toggle between a couple of different things. So down in the bar underneath this video that you're watching right now, you should be able to see a link that would take you to the Holden Evening Prayer service recorded last week in the Covenant Room. And that is what we're going to use for the main part of Holden Evening Prayer this week. And then this video will give you the Bible reading and a hymn and some reflection questions on the Lord's Prayer that are specific for this week. So for that middle part of the service, you'll be able to click back to this video. But for the main part of Holden Evening Prayer, you'll be worshiping with the recording that we made last week. That on our short notice and our figuring with this new technology seemed like the good way to go. And we also should have there a link for you to be able to access a bulletin so that you can follow and sing and pray along this evening. And some people have been printing those out. Some have been toggling between devices, but we know this is already some toggling this evening between the two sets of videos. So hopefully there's something of that works for you. So at this point, we just want to say welcome to worship. It is good to be together as the communion of saints, even in our different places. And at this point, you can click over to start Holden Evening Prayer on the other video. We'll see you back here in a little bit.
So this is a reading from Luke. Then Jesus said, "There was a man who had 2 sons. The younger of them said to his father, 'Father, give me the share of the property that will belong to me.' So he divided his property between them. A few days later, the younger son gathered all he had and traveled to a distant country. And there he squandered his property in dissolute living. When he had spent everything, a severe famine took place throughout that country, and he began to be in need. So he went and hired himself out to one of the citizens of that country, who sent him to his fields to feed the pigs. He would gladly have filled himself with the pods that the pigs were eating, and no one gave him anything. And when he came to himself, he said, 'How many of my father's hired hands have bread enough and to spare? And here I am dying of hunger. I will get up and go to my father, and I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me like one of your hired hands.' So he set off and went to his father. But while he was still far off, his father saw him and was filled with compassion. He ran and put his arms around him and kissed him. Then the son said to his father, 'Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son.' But the father said to his slaves, 'Quickly, bring out a robe, the best one, and put it on him. Put a ring on his finger and sandals on his feet. And get the fatted calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and is found.' And they began to celebrate."
Please join in singing, "I've Got Peace Like a River."
Here's a reading from the Lord's Prayer curriculum about the Lord's Prayer petition, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." The Lord's Prayer petition, "Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors," is prayed in different ways in different church communities. Some say, "And forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors." Others say, "And forgive us our sins as we forgive those who sin against us." And some say, "And forgive us our trespasses as we forgive those who trespass against us." Each of these versions gets to the main idea Jesus wants us to learn: forgiveness. Many of Jesus' listeners were poor. Living in debt was a major threat. When poor people owed money, they could lose their land, home, or other important things. Debt also brought shame onto a person and family. For the people who lived during Jesus' time, honor and shame were a very big deal. Receiving shame from their community was the worst punishment you could imagine. In Matthew's gospel, the words debts and sins are often used to mean the same thing. This brings a different understanding of sin than what we often think of today. Sin involved relationships. Because God made us for a connection with God and one another, sin meant the breaking of relationship or connection. This happens through choices we make by ourselves, as well as decisions made by groups and systems to which we belong. For the people in Jesus' time and for us today, money and debts are one of the biggest ways we hurt each other. Because of the way our world runs, having a lot of money means having a lot of power. So when Jesus taught his disciples to pray and forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, he was calling for a world where people weren't divided, especially by money. Jesus wanted what we call distributive justice, making systems work so everyone has their fair share. As we see in the parable of the two sons, forgiveness is about restoration. Restoration is bringing something or someone back to what or who it was before. It heals. It puts people in harmony and good relationship. It's remembering that each of us is made in God's image, and God said we are very good. Because we belong to each other and God, we owe one another our commitment and collaboration in making a just world where everyone can flourish. For that to happen, we will need to have compassion for ourselves and each other, the way the father and the younger son in the parable did. Relationship and connection were more valuable than money.
We want to invite you into a time of reflection now. So get as comfortable as you can be. Maybe you're already on a comfy couch, or maybe you just need to get yourself comfortable on your chair. Maybe put your feet on the floor, maybe empty your hands if that helps you to concentrate. Maybe close your eyes if that feels like a good way to enter into some reflection. I invite you to think about the following questions. Do you remember a time someone owed you something, or when you owed someone else something? How did it feel? How do you think a relationship can break or be damaged? Although the parable that Doug read to us is probably very familiar to most of us, what did you notice this time about the parable of the father and his two sons? Did anything surprise you? What does it look and feel like to be brought back into good relationship? And finally, have you ever needed to be brought or welcomed back? Or have you ever welcomed someone else back? Now take a deep breath and open your eyes again. Notice what's around you and what's on the screen, and be present. The light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. We invite you back into the remainder of Holden Evening Worship, the recording from last week. If you fast forward from where you stopped to about 21 minutes and 30 seconds into the video, you should be able to pick up then right around the Annunciation, which is the next part. And we will let that be the remainder of the service, as it also includes a blessing. But as we send you on your way, know that Pastor Nick and I are going with you, and we send our blessings to you this evening and in all the days to come. Good night.